number of attempts. Please contact customer service if you need assistance. Goodbye. This service is provided in high definition. Access code accepted. You are the only participant in this conference. To start this conference is being recorded. All callers are muted and they can unmute themselves.
Hare Krishna.
Chain backup reaction. Hare Krishna. गीता और कौन मेन तो वही हरे कृष्णा. हरे कृष्णा.
आनंदलीलामय विग्रहाय गणापदिव्याय जय सुंदराय तस्मै महाप्रेम रसप्रदाय श्री चैतन्य नमस्ते। Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I'm grateful to all of you that you're come here today afternoon for the Bhakti Shastri class. For last 2 sessions I was out of town and deeply feeling the separation from all of the devotees here, and I'm extremely glad to be back by Krishna's mercy. So I believe that we completed 2 chapters, chapter 10 and chapter 11, and today we'll be discussing the chapter 12. Before we go, are there any comments or any reflections or realizations? Probably it may not be the best time to ask questions pertaining to chapter 10 and 11 now, but we can definitely have a class or a session or spare some time later to answer those if there are any. I'm sure Sukeshwari Mataji and Sri Govindatta Prabhu must have done the or answered the questions to your satisfaction. But then we will have a separate session. Any other reflections and realizations before we kind of go ahead for today's class? Yes, Shraddha Mataji.
I just wanted to add a comment that Mukharvind and I were reading the Gita Mahatmya, where either Lord Shiva is talking to Parvati and telling her about the good points of every chapter, of Bhagavad Gita, or Vishnu is telling Lakshmi. But so in most of the chapters, the essence that I was telling him was that in most of the chapters it is that a person was very sinful, and then he hears some pure devotees reciting that particular chapter, and then they go back to Vaikuntha. So I was telling him, hey, did you notice that they all just go to Vaikuntha? They're not going to Golok. And then we came to chapter 12 where it says, the person goes back to Lord Krishna. And so, so today we are reading chapter 12.
Wonderful. Thank you. Nice point. Other reflections? Okay. Okay, so we'll start with the Mangalacharan prayers, and then we'll continue. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakammalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhayascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Matsamo nasti papatma naparadhi chakaschana parihare pilajjame kim bhuve purushottama. Bhumau skalitapadanam bhumireva valambanam tvai jata paradhanam tvameva sharanam prabho. Govinda vallabhe radhe prarthaye tvamaham sada tvadiyam iti janatu govindo mam tvaya saha. Radha radhita radhesha radhika prana vallabha radha ramana vande tvam radhika prema nirchita. Your good name, Aditi? Aditi. Please welcome. I haven't seen you before, so.
I am from Folsom, so I attend online.
Yes.
I was in area today, so yes.
Wonderful. So happy, and I'm glad you could make it. Hare Krishna. So today we'll discuss chapter 12. This chapter is the last of the chapter in Bhakti Yoga. As we have discussed earlier, the whole of Bhagavad Gita is divided into 18 chapters. The first 6 chapters talk of Karma Yoga. The next 6 chapters, that is from 7th through the 12th, talk of Bhakti Yoga. And the 13th through the 18th talk of Jnana. That's how Acharyas have divided the Bhagavad Gita. So the 12th chapter is the last chapter in the Bhakti Yoga section. This is a short chapter, it has 20 verses, but there is a significant amount of information that Krishna gives in these 20 verses. So the outline, the bare outline of the chapter is that from verse 1st through the 7th, the discussion happens which form of worship is better, whether the worship of impersonal feature of Krishna or the personal feature of Krishna. And in the next 8th through the 12th verses, those are the verses where Krishna gives some concessions. He says, he gives like different gradations in the Bhakti Yoga. And the last 13th through the 20th, Krishna actually talks about who is dear to him and what are the qualities of a person in Bhakti Yoga, or what are the qualities of his devotees that makes dear to him. So this is the broad outline of this particular chapter, and we will go now verse by verse. If we can turn to the 12th chapter. I'm sorry, I have a different copy, so I did some markings in this copy, so forgive me if the page numbers are different. But just before we start, let's sync up with the page. This is 509, I don't know what. Oh, 541, okay, fine. I'll just, as long as everybody is on the, we'll talk in terms of verses. So before we start, is there anybody online? Anybody attending via phone or email or telephone or internet? Right. So chapter 12, and this chapter is titled Bhakti Yoga or Devotional Service. And Srila Prabhupada actually, everywhere where there is Bhakti Yoga, it means devotional service. So the word service is used here, because devotion cannot be merely a sentiment. Just I have some devotion to you, but that is not Bhakti Yoga. Text 1. Arjuna uvacha evam satata yuktaye bhaktastvam paryupasate ye chapyaksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittama. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifest. So Srila Prabhupada, in the purport, he talks of 2 kinds of devotees: those who worship Krishna in the impersonal fashion, and those who worship Krishna in personal fashion. And when you talk of personal fashion, there is service involved. And because in the previous chapter, what was the previous chapter? Universal form, where Arjuna saw Krishna's universal form, where he was pervading throughout the universe in his universal form. And unless Krishna reveals that universal form, it is impossible to see on our own the universal form of Krishna. In fact, we are within Krishna's universe. Does anybody deny that? But we can't see Krishna. Though he is right there, spread out in this world in his impersonal form or the universal form, we cannot see him. But in the 11th chapter, as we learn, Krishna gave special vision to Arjuna to enable him to see the universal form. Now, Arjuna has this doubt. So you showed me your universal form, which is an impersonal form. It can mean 2 things, because here impersonal can mean either the universal form, which is also impersonal, or the Brahman effulgence. As we read in Bhagavatam, Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. That Krishna can be realized through Brahman feature, or through the Paramatma feature, or through the Bhagavan feature. And Arjuna's doubt is, so who's better? Those who actually worship your impersonal form or those who worship your personal form? And Srila Prabhupada actually gives in the purport that many places Krishna actually indicates his personal form is better. For example, if we go read in the purport, the 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph, if we quickly read, because that's like gives the summary here.
You just said the universal form is the impersonal form. Is that I didn't get that because it's something that Arjuna saw. Yeah? How could it be impersonal? Yeah?
Nice point. The universal form of Krishna has, in the strict sense, a body. In the sense, the Virat Rupa has a body. And we read in Bhagavatam about how, for example, the locations of planets. The lower planetary systems represent his legs, and the middle planetary systems his belly, and the upper planetary system represents his head. So in that sense, the universal form has a body. But because it is so vastly spread, in other sense also it's impersonal. Virat Rupa it doesn't have a personal feature which you can visualize. Makes sense a little bit? But specifically in this verse, the target is towards the Brahman feature of Krishna, which is impersonal. That is easily understood. But the inner meaning also is that Arjuna thinks that I saw the impersonal feature of the Lord in form of Virat Rupa, then is that worship also okay? So the direct meaning is the Brahman feature of the Lord, but the indirect meaning is that, is the universal form of worship better, or is it the personal feature is better? Because Lord pervades this universe. Completely he pervades this universe, but you cannot see Krishna. It is said in Bhagavatam that Krishna pervades this universe as a super soul or as a Virat Rupa. Within and without, he is visible as time factor. That also we learn in the 11th chapter. Because Arjuna asks, what's your mission? What is the purpose of your universal form? He says, time I am the destroyer of 3 worlds. So externally you see Krishna's representation as time factor. Internally you see him in the universal form, which is kind of pervading the whole world. Yes.
Also in the 10th chapter, 8th verse, I was just saying, Krishna directed, and he tells in the same line, Aham sarvasya prabhu matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhav.
Buddha bhav samanvita.
No, but 10 point is Aham, that tells like, sutre mani gana yuva, like you can't see me like right. As a pulsar.
I see, okay. The verse you are referring to is 7:7. Mattahat parataram nanam. Acha, okay. Yeah. So Krishna is pervading, but it's almost you can say the impersonal form, because you cannot see him. He's pervading all through the universe. In fact, Krishna is present everywhere, but you can't see him.
But the universal form is not. It's only when he manifests. Yeah? It's not there. Yeah,
it is there, but you can't see him. And so in that, because he's pervading through the universe. And the other aspect of the universal form is that
is it eternally present, or unless he manifests, then only it is present?
Then the universal form is temporary. Whenever the material world comes into being, then the universal form, Virat Rupa, comes into being. Otherwise, it's not there. It's temporary manifestation of Krishna.
So as long as the
material world exists, the universal form exists. Because for those who actually want to get more information, the Bhagavatam, the 2nd and the 3rd cantos, it's very, very elaborately given. How his universal form comes about, how different demigods come about, different functions come about, like eating, sleeping, evacuating. All these things, they have demigods, and then they exist in the universal form. And how, unless the universal form gives the permission, nothing will work. Everything will just remain inert. Unless he gives permission, unless he's there, he's present, nothing will work. So it's a very extensive description for those who want. But these are valid points. I mean, what is impersonal versus what's personal?
Now we are going back to universal form again, but universal form, is it like for every universe there's a universal form, or is it for common for all the universes?
So I'll give a little bit of background. So initially, there is no material world. There is no material creation. Beyond this material world, we hear that there are spiritual worlds. And then material world, or the whole of material existence, is just 1/4 of Lord's creation. But please understand that when the devastation happens and when the life of Brahma ends, the material worlds are destroyed, yes? So what that means is that the whole material existence itself is just gone. There is no space even for the material world. Everything goes back into the body of Vishnu. And when the material world starts, the creation starts, so first Krishna has to say, okay, someplace, just like government says, okay, we need to create a prison. All right, what is the farther most desolate place? Let's find an Alcatraz Island kind of situation and then create. So similarly, Krishna kind of creates, takes up some space, and he starts creating the material world. So the first aspect is that Mahavishnu comes, and from Mahavishnu all the material universes come. So the short answer is that each universe has its own universal form. Each universe within this. So Mahavishnu comes, and then from Mahavishnu, he fills up that space with half of water, and then he exhales, and then from his exhalation, many millions of universes are created, and each of the universe is floating on that particular water, just like football. Srila Prabhupada writes, football just floats on the water. So there are millions of universes, and within each universes, there is the planetary systems, and then we are in one of the small universes. So each of the universes has its own universal form, Brahma, Shiva, all the planetary systems and everything, and that's enclosed within different layers. So Bhuvir, Apo, Nalo, Vayu, the earth, it's enclosed by earth, and then enclosed by water. Each thickness is 10 times thicker. So if this universal form is enclosed by earth is, say for example, I'm just giving an example, like 1 kilometer thick. So the next enclosure is water, which is 10 kilometers thick. Then air, 100 kilometers thick. That way it just is the universe. And then each universe has its own Brahma and everything. So, thank you. Yeah, within each of the universe, Krishna creates all the elements, and he encloses them there, and then. Inside each universal system. So Mahavishnu, who's Mahavishnu? Who is breathing? Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. From Garbhodakshaya Vishnu comes. No, first is Mahavishnu. He is Karanodakshaya Vishnu. Then Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Then Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. So and then in that realm, the last is the localized super soul, and then before that is the Paramatma, and then the Mahavishnu is the creator. Mahavishnu is lying on the causal ocean. Each universe has its own. Yes, because this universe is there, the water is below, Brahma comes about, and in that stem is the planetary systems.
So there are basically two water bodies, right? One inside the universe, and then there is another water body where
Correct.
the universes themselves are floating.
Correct. Correct.
But Mahavishnu is lying in the ocean. Who is lying in the ocean of milk? I'm always confused.
Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. Other questions, comments? Okay. Text 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Veshya Mano Yemam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetas te me yukta tamamataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be the most perfect. So here Krishna definitively answers the question by Arjuna. He says, who is better? My devotees are better. And after that, he gives the difficulty for those who are actually trying to do the impersonal worship. And Srila Prabhupada writes in this purport that what we are doing, serving in the temple and offering, cooking for the deities, like Kinjal cooks for Rajbhog. So, and so many other devotees do so many other things, like somebody organizes yatras and this stuff like that. So everything is done, that is done for Krishna, and that is personal service to Krishna. Krishna says those are the kind of things I'm looking for. Text. Any questions so far? Should we move on?
I was wondering because it's so clear here that Krishna is saying that he prefers devotional service directly to the personal form rather than the impersonal form. So I was wondering, like the Mayavadis or other theories, how do they interpret all these? Because it's so directly given, whatever we, this is our strength for the Vaishnavas, all these chapters, this is what we believe in. But I was wondering, after reading this also, how can they think that, about Brahman and impersonal form?
The greatest misconception they start with is that when Krishna is referring to as Mam, they interpret as impersonal Brahman. So here he says Nitya Yukta Mam, Nitya Yukta Upasate means worship the Brahman. Because for them, Krishna's form as a person is a product of matter or illusion. Krishna is completely impersonal before, and when he has come to this world, he has become a person. And then he comes under the sway of material nature, and material nature creates that body of Krishna. Now, the point is that if your faith is contrary, no amount of words by Krishna can actually change it. Krishna is directly saying, so many places he says, Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam. Krishna says, my birth and activities are transcendental. Then how come when he takes birth, he becomes a product of material nature? So the point is, the other thing with Mayavadis is this. They take only things which are suitable for them, and they reject other aspects of it. It's like half-hand logic. Vaishnavas, they say, we take up all the activities favorable to devotional service. They'll say, we'll take up all the verses favorable to our philosophy. That's what they do. Most of the Mayavadis, they can't explain stuff. Srila Prabhupada writes in Bhagavatam that the Mayavadis, nobody dared to touch Srimad Bhagavatam. Nobody dared to comment on Srimad Bhagavatam. Why? Because it's completely personal, and everything is about Krishna, his activities, and everything is so personal. I think between you and me, I think Mayavadis feared if we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll become personalists too. Let's not. Because it's so direct. Srimad Bhagavatam is so direct, so personal, so captivating. So all those activities of Krishna in the 10th canto, how can they be a product of matter? How can they be like you and me? It's clear. But then again, as I said, you take whatever you want to and twist it around, because there's a word jugglery. They say Ma means this. They juggle the words in such a way that finally their conclusion is that Krishna is impersonal. Here, so it's clear. Again, the other point is so very clear. In the next few verses, you'll read it.
Shankaracharya also commented on the Bhagavatam?
No Mayavadis touched Bhagavatam. Now, only the problem is this. In the later modern ages, Mayavadis have commented on Bhagavatam. Shankaracharya did not do that, but again, the Mayavadi funny philosophy is that I am God, I am better than God, who is Shankaracharya? He's also God, I am God. So he can't comment on it, I'll comment on it. So where is the disciplic succession here? In Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, we have the greatest reverence towards our spiritual master, and the etiquette is one never thinks one is superior to one's spiritual master, and follow that in the disciplic succession. But Shankaracharya, he was Lord Shiva, and who was sent by Lord Vishnu to actually baffle people with the word jugglery, and also to drive away the Buddhism. So he had dual purposes when he came. But the fact is that Shankaracharya never dared to touch on Srimad Bhagavatam. He left it as it is. But the modern day Mayavadi sannyasis think that they can interpret.
So what scripture he commented?
Bhagavad Gita, and then Vedanta Sutra, a few other books. I think his commentary on Vedanta Sutra was Shariraka Bhashya, and then he also commented on Bhagavad Gita. Then I'm pretty sure a few other scriptures. I don't have on top of my head. I'm not very familiar with Shankaracharya, and no intentions to be. Text third, fourth.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Srivasas Prabhu.
Yes.
This is Krishna Purushottam.
Sorry, Prabhu, I didn't get your
thank
name.
You, Prabhu. Wonderful point you just made. One comment is and also people will read other Bhagavad Gita, Prabhu, like not Prabhupada Bhagavad Gita. They'll read other commentaries and get confused.
Right.
So that's why if everybody gets this as it is Bhagavad Gita, so people will read and they'll get a nice commentary by Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Sri Krishna Purushottam Prabhu, for that wonderful comment.
Oh, thank you, Prabhupada.
Other points? Okay.
And he also wrote Govindam Bhajan.
Yes, that's the other point. And we can have a whole class on that, or 2-3 classes on that. But pretty good. Actually, the only aspect which I found Srila Prabhupada writing in his purports was the Govindam Bhajagunamate, this verse. Shankaracharya, he quotes, Srila Prabhupada quotes Shankaracharya in many places. He quotes only 2 things from Shankaracharya. One thing is, Shankaracharya admits that Narayana is Paro Avyaktat, means Narayana is beyond the material creation. And second thing is, he quotes Bhaja Govindam in the songs in different aspects. So, he himself said, Shankaracharya himself said that word jugglery is not going to help you at the time of death. Samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukkhintarane. Actually, we should at least once just go through the song, because when you see the song, you will see that Shankaracharya also was referring to the personal form of the Lord. What's that? There is one verse. Dhyayam Shripati Rupamajasram. I don't remember that, but he says that Dhyayam Shripati Rupamajasram. He says that meditate on the form of the Lord, whose form is beautiful. So if the form of Krishna was just made of matter, he wouldn't say just meditate on something material. Anyway, should we go ahead? All right. Text 3-4. Etvaksharam anirdeshyam avyaktam paryupasate sarvatra gam achintyam cha kutastham achalam dhruvam sanniyam yendriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhayaha te prapnuvanti mameva sarva bhuta hiterata. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of absolute truth, by controlling various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons, engaged in the welfare of all, at last achieve me. Now this verse really needs some discussion. The first thing that straight away comes is, Krishna says that those who worship the impersonal at last reach me. So my biggest concern, what we are talking right now, is why not worship impersonal? Because Krishna is saying anyway they'll reach me. Why are you objecting? At last. That's one thing. Here, actually, it means two things. When he says, reaches me, Krishna is also Brahman. Please understand that Brahman and Krishna, in one sense, are non-different. This distinction is very important to understand. Bhagavatam says that Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam, the word used is advayam. Means, and Srila Prabhupada also translates it as non-dual substance. Means, in one sense, Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan are one and the same. So when Krishna says that those who worship my impersonal feature reach me, he is talking, the first possibility is, they'll reach me in my Brahman form. If you worship my Brahman form, I will reveal to you my Brahman form, and you will reach me there. Otherwise, if Krishna meant everything is the same, why would he in the first paragraph, in the second verse say that those who worship me are best? He would say both are same, Arjuna. You can worship either ways, you will reach me. So the point Krishna is qualifying is that those who worship Brahman reach his position as Brahman, or even those who have Brahman realized but get mercy of a pure devotee by chance, they can reach him. They should get the mercy of pure devotee. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam that 4 Kumaras, they got mercy of Lord Shiva, and therefore they got mercy of Krishna in his direct personal feature. And we see the story of from 3rd canto, how they became eager to see the Lord, and how Jay and Vijay stopped them, and how they were cursed by them. Other same thing, Sukdev Goswami. He was a liberated soul right from the birth, completely in the monistic platform. But he had the mercy of his father, who taught him Srimad Bhagavatam, and he became a great personal devotee of the Lord. So either ways, impersonal worship is kind of little dicey here. It's not direct. It's indirect way to worship Krishna. And also here Krishna says there is a lot of work involved. He says that control the senses, then being equally disposed to everyone, engage in welfare work for all. Therefore you see Mayavadi is doing a lot of welfare work. Because their meditation is not fulfilling completely. They can meditate only to a certain extent, but then they do all these philanthropic things, open hospitals, more from the material perspective. There is also a spiritual perspective in opening hospitals, but this is material. They serve everybody. Everybody is God. Let's serve God. So that's their whole vision when for the Mayavadis. So Srila Prabhupada, the words of Krishna have to be qualified. What Krishna is saying when they say, at last they reach me. And because in the next verses also, he continues with the same topic. Another important thing. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that when Krishna says that those who worship the impersonal form at last reach me, which means that unless one reaches Krishna, one's spiritual perfection is not perfect. So even they who are worshipping the impersonal feature, Krishna says, at last they reach me. So they have to reach me to achieve spiritual perfection. So Krishna is the last word on spiritual realization. Indirectly, Krishna is saying this here. Got that point? Should I repeat? Questions? Yes, Aditi Mataji, you have a question? No, okay, you are shooing away some fly. That's okay.
So he's saying at last me. So me also is the personal. Yeah, that's why he's Prabhupada probably added at last. Yeah. So I mean, impersonal is not me. Yeah.
No, it's me. That's it's Krishna.
His effulgence is non-different than. That's what he's saying. Yeah.
In one sense, it's non-different. That's what I said when we talked of the words Vadanti Tattvavidas Tattvam Yajnanam Advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shravyate. Means to say that non-dual substance means that in one sense it's the same, but in another sense it's not. Because if everything is the same, why there is a difference? Why is there Brahman? Why is there Paramatma? Why is there Bhagavan? When you are saying everything is the same. In one sense it's the same. It is Krishna himself. But in another sense there is some difference.
So in the impersonal, when they go to the impersonal absorption, there is no work for them, no activity, correct?
No activity, no identity, no sense of exchange, nothing. I just merge. Shanti, peace. But but he says at last they have to come to me. Meaning to say that the impersonal realization is not the complete realization. You still have to go higher. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport here, it is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna, otherwise there is no perfect realization. Yes, Nitin Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, nowadays people are so much in the charitable work and welfare work. So when you see those kind of people, like how can we I need some points, like how can we say them, like which is the highest welfare work which you are doing is, like the devotional service is higher than that. Like building the temple is higher than the, doing the welfare work for the, opening the hospitals or, feed the hunger people or something.
So if I understand you, then you say, give us some bullet points on how to explain to the people that what we are doing, that is book distribution and having temples and everything, is much better than, for example, hospitals,
yes,
or feeding the poor,
yes,
or constructing homeless shelters and things like that.
Yes. Or, yeah.
Well, I'll give the answer in a nutshell. One thing you can say is that all those activities people have been doing for many, many years now, and still the world's problems are not solved. That you can give that's directly. But what we are trying to do is to help people realize their spiritual identity, which is the ending of all problems. No matter how much you try to help people materially, it won't work. Other example you can give is a drowning man and the coat. The man is drowning, and then you get his coat, pull him out, pull the coat out, and you say, I have saved him. The man is drowned. So what did you say? You can give a few examples. And unless one comes to the spiritual platform, there is no question of happiness. People are trying. People have spent billions of dollars on doing all those things. Other questions? So I welcome Malini and Kameshwari, who are just coming from book distribution. Glories to your service. So just to give you a small review, that we completed first 4 verses, wherein Arjuna asks Krishna which form of worship is better, the personal or the impersonal, and Krishna replies that my personal worship is better, and my impersonal worship is not, because he says that those who worship my impersonal form, they at last will come to me, but there's a long process. Text 5. क्लेशोऽधिकरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तसक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्त हि गतिर्दुःखम् देहवद्भिरवाप्यते. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that Krishna says that those who are working on the impersonal feature, the advancement is always troublesome. Why is it? Because by nature we have a body, and then Krishna also seems to have a body, so we can relate, right? So somebody says, who is your friend? Air is my friend. Really? How do you relate with air? You talk to air, air responds. In the sense, like Krishna as a Brahman is a life person, and there is some sort of reciprocation, but there is no definitive reciprocation. And Srila Prabhupada writes is that you have this body which you are so familiar and intimate with, because since time immemorial you have had this body. Now you have to forget this concept that you are this body. Forget it. I'm not body. I'm not body. I'm this. So you have to get this thing out of your system to realize the impersonal Brahman. And then when you actually achieve impersonal Brahman, then Krishna is body. Krishna is a body. I need a body. I need a body. So it's a dual way. You have to. It's so indirect. It's like going from one place to another, but then you have to go backwards and then go forwards. Go backwards all the way means forget that you are you are not having a body and you don't need a body. Then when you come to that stage, I have to realize that I have a body and then go. So impersonal means that you take 2 steps backward, 2 steps forward, and then make progress. But with bhakti, it's a direct progress. Go straight. So therefore, there is the emphasis on bhakti. There are so many other different ways of realizing Krishna. But Krishna says, just do bhakti. It's so easy. Why worry about other things? When we read the Shastras, then we realize the importance of our practices. When we chant Hare Krishna, it's such a direct, straightforward, easy way to satisfy Krishna. Straight. There's no left, right, center. No tangent. Krishna is directly pleased. And when we read these Shastras, our own practices become super strong. And there is a rhyme and reason with why you're doing. Otherwise, if we do it, if somebody is fortunate enough to be chanting Hare Krishna all day, there's nothing like it. You don't have to read a single book, because you have realized what the essence of all the books is there. And as I said many times, Srila Prabhupada, because this story was told by one of his disciples, that one day Srila Prabhupada was sitting in the room and he called this disciple, and and he said to his disciple, "You tell me why I wrote all these books." And he says, disciple said to Srila Prabhupada, so that we can preach, and then we can distribute this all over the world, we can raise money, we can build temples. Srila Prabhupada said, "No, so that devotees can chant Hare Krishna." The point is that when you read, your sadhana becomes more having the intelligence is strong. Otherwise, the intelligence it'll start creating doubts. It's the same thing, been trying so long, maybe something different I should try. Because that's the nature of material world. If something is not working, try something different. Maybe it will work. You don't have to try anything different. Srila Prabhupada gave the right path. It is just our own intelligence when it is strengthened by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, then our sadhana will become on a more stronger footing. So in this particular purport, I'm sorry I digressed, but in this purport, Srila Prabhupada writes about the difference between the impersonal and personal, and how if you turn to the purport, I'll just read the 3rd paragraph in the purport. In the first couple of paragraphs, Srila Prabhupada talks about the Saguna and Nirguna worship, but in the 3rd paragraph, and also he talks about Archa Vigraha, because the point of worship of Krishna, one of the major items of bhakti is deity worship. And then Srila Prabhupada writes about how deity is not different from Krishna, and then he gives the example of post office. And that means to say that outside, if there is car there outside, and there is Krishna here inside. I'll go and take the Aarti paraphernalia, worship the car. Krishna is there everywhere. Why not worship car? Why worship? It's the same thing, material. But Srila Prabhupada writes is that just like the post office, he gives the example of a post office in this purport, where he says that you can't take your mail. Unfortunately, as the kids grow older, I think they'll forget this concept of mail, but it's part of the technological advancement, because nobody posts stuff anymore. So, but the point is that if you have to post something, or if you have to send something, then you take that thing and put it in the trash can. What did you do? This is go. It will go to other place. Put it in the trash can. It won't go, obviously. Same way Srila Prabhupada writes is that Archa Vigraha, or the manifested form of Krishna, is an authorized form where Krishna accepts our service. That's there in the second paragraph. In the third paragraph, let's start reading. For those who are online, who just joined, we are in the 5th text of 12th chapter, and in the purport, we are in the third paragraph. So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of Supreme through the Vedic literatures as the Upanishads, as they have to learn the language, understand the non-perceptual feelings, and realize all these processes. Wow, that's a lot of work right there. Learn Sanskrit, read Upanishads, learn about impersonal feature of the Lord, follow that process. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances onto the deity, simply by hearing of the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating remnants of the foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Lord very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk or trouble or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. A similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated there that if one ultimately has to surrender onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this surrendering process is called bhakti, but instead takes to the trouble to understand what is Brahman, what is not Brahman, and spends his whole life in that way, the result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised that one should not take up this troublesome path of self-realization, because there is uncertainty in the ultimate result. So, it's a very nice summary of what Srila Prabhupada is trying to say and how difficult it is. The beauty is that there is a risk also at the end. There is no guarantee that you will approach Krishna. But I think later also Srila Prabhupada writes, it comes from the false ego. The impersonal is also a result of false ego. I am God. I can find out. Okay, I have my intelligence. And then you do all sorts of this experimentation. What is Brahman? What is not? Neti. Not this, not this, not this, not this. So this, you get the point. Let's read the first part of the next paragraph, and then we can just go ahead. A living entity is an eternally individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature, but the blissful portion is not realized. So here is the point. So in the impersonalism, the other disadvantage is you get Sat, you get Chit, no Ananda. Because Ananda is reserved for the Bhakti portion. By the grace of some devotee, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. Here is the problem though. Even if you get the grace of a devotee, Srila Prabhupada further writes, at that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble, because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Really? Still want to do impersonalism? Practice and then at the same perfection also. It's, as I said, you know what? You have to go back 2 steps, come back 2 steps, realize what it is, and then move forward. So, kleshodhikarastesham, Krishna says there's much difficulty involved with that path. Other questions? We'll complete the next one and then, yes, Swati.
He says a similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam.
It is, if somebody can give the shloka book, it is there. 10th canto, 14th chapter. It's there. We'll look up. Thank you. Malini, I have the shloka book here. Looks like it's I'm hoping it's there in the shloka book. But let's see, 10:14. You should one of those. Klishyanti ke kevala bodhaya. Yes, it's there. You can, I think, probably we can, if you can get few shloka books, mainly anyways, you can give few of them, at least 2-3 devotees can share. We can all read this together. It will be a nice impression. That's page 255. From the shloka book. Please, 255. Everybody got that right? Okay. Kindly repeat after me. Shreya Shritim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho.
Shreya Shritim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho.
Klishyanti ye kevala bodha labdhaye.
Klishyanti ye kevala bodhya labdhe.
Tesham asau kleshala eva shishyate.
Tesam asau kleshala eva shishyate.
Nanyad yatastula tushavagatinam.
Nanyad yatastula tushaghatanam.
Shreya Shritim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho.
Shreya Shritim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho.
Klishyanti ye kevala bodha labdhaye.
Klishyanti ye kevala bodha labdhaye.
Tesham asau kleshala eva shishyate.
Tesham asau kleshala eva shishyate.
Nanyad yatastula tushavagatinam.
Nanyad yathastulat tushavaghatam.
My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. If someone gives up that path and engages in the cultivation of speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and will not achieve his desired result. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His gain is only trouble. So, text 6 and 7. Etu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matparaha ananyenaiva yogena mam dhyayanto upasate tesham aham samudharta mrityu samsara sagarat bhavami nachirat partha maya veshita chetasam. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. And Srila Prabhupada here in this purport, he emphasizes the chanting of Hare Krishna. And the other beauty of this particular verse is, Krishna says that you don't have to endeavor separately for liberation. That those who are worshipping me without deviation, I take them away from the cycle of birth and death. I'll personally come, take them away. That's a byproduct. You don't have to worry about liberation. Because Krishna says that it is not that if you do this, then you will get it. You keep doing it, I'll take you away. And Krishna gives the guarantee. Please understand that when Krishna gives a guarantee, nobody can stop it. Nobody can thwart it. Nobody can will otherwise. This is the guarantee Krishna gives. So the other thing is the bhakti is that has Krishna's guarantee. There's one of the other things we discussed at length in the previous semester also, that what is the difference between bhakti and other processes like jnana, dhyana, and karma yoga. There, our own effort is involved. and there are failures, then there is no backup plan. There is no plan B, no guarantee, no buyback scheme, nothing. But when you do bhakti, then Krishna says, I guarantee something because I am backing up. You are serving me, I give you this guarantee of protection. So when that particular protection is there by Krishna, then bhakti becomes more successful. There is every chance of success. And therefore Srila Prabhupada writes in the Nectar of Instruction that devotional service is so pure that it forcibly carries away one to ultimate success. How? Because Krishna is guaranteeing it. If you start it, it'll happen sometimes. Then you might say that, what about people who actually do for some time and give up the path and go away? That's okay. Let them go away. It is to their eternal credit. And some other time, Krishna puts them in such a situation that the revival will start in this life, next life, few lifetimes, whenever. But the point is that bhakti is not lost. And there is something other beautiful thing about bhakti, that Krishna in the next few verses, he gives a lot of concessions. Please understand, dhyana and all the other forms of yoga, there are no concessions. Krishna says, you have to do this. For example, celibacy is a requirement. It's not an option. If on one hand you go to the yoga studio, and other hand you want that practice of yoga to enhance your intimate life, then there is something seriously wrong with your understanding of what yoga you're trying to do. Because the whole idea is that you should abstain first and then even try to practice the yoga. But here in the next few verses we'll see the gradations, how Krishna says how there is so much of flexibility in bhakti. And therefore there is much higher chance. Especially in the age of Kali Yuga, it's other processes are pretty much ineffective when compared to bhakti. Questions, comments? Okay. Yes.
So here in this translation it said like,
Shraddha Mataji, can you please do me a favor and close the door?
okay, so
Okay. Okay, the volume is fluctuating up and down. It's okay. No, we can. Oh, directional mic. Better? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Better? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Ram. Hare Ram. Ram Ram. Hare Hare. Better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
yes, Prabhu, yeah.
Sorry,
so it's like in the translation, always upon meditating upon me. So is there like you say like reading the shastras and everything, but one should once if one is able to chant whole day, then he really not need to chant. Read the shastras. So is that like bottom line is just meditating, or because the Mayavadis they are also like saying that some of the Mayavadis the bottom line is just meditation, but they meditate in something which is not exist. And our like chanting is we also meditate, but we meditate in personal form. So is that the bottom line we also consider as like just chanting and meditating, or so?
Well, in either cases, the perfection is called samadhi, means complete absorption. And I think in one of the particular purports, Srila Prabhupada writes about the samadhi. And so, in the bhakti yoga process, for example, even though you are actively serving Krishna, like distributing books, cleaning temple, doing so many other activities for the Lord, that is samadhi. Though externally it may not be that somebody is meditating only can be in samadhi, but somebody is actually working and visibly serving the Lord is also in samadhi. So bhakti yoga, It's that. Or maybe I need to understand your question better. Is my answer going right way or?
Yeah. I'm getting like, okay, that is also samadhi if we do some services, for the Krishna. But I'm saying like meditating, like just you do the chanting and just meditate on the holy name. So that is the real samadhi only Krishna suggesting, or Krishna is also suggesting that like you're doing any services for me, like book distributions or temple cleaning service, whatever. So that is also called as a like meditation service.
Okay, actually hold that thought. Yeah. When we read the next few verses, hopefully your answer gets clarified.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Text 8. Text 8. Maya eva mana dhastva mayim buddhim niveshaya nivashasyasi mayeva ata urdvam na samshayaha. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. So, let's read the purport, short purport, text 8. One who is engaged in Lord Krishna's service, one who is engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service, lives in direct relationship with the Supreme Lord. So there is no doubt that his position is transcendental from the very beginning. A devotee does not live on the material plane, he lives in Krishna. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. Therefore, when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, Krishna and his internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. When he offers food, Krishna directly accepts these eatables and the devotee becomes Krishnaized by eating the remnants. One who does not engage in such service cannot understand how this is so, although this process is recommended in Bhagavad Gita and in the Vedic literatures. So in this particular verse, Krishna is talking of two things, which is mind and intelligence. Here he says, Maya vesha mana dhvastva, Mai buddhim niveshaya. Use your mind and intelligence always in my service. And then you will come to me without, and you are situated in the highest platform. Which means the mental absorption, or what is called meditation in Krishna, is highest perfection. So when you chant based on one's advancement, when the mind is absorbed in Krishna, then and this absorption must be continuous. Not like I am absorbed for some time and then I am not absorbed for other times. Continuous, 24 hours of absorbment is what Krishna is talking in this verse. If you can do that, then actually if you can be on that level, then you need not even chant Hare Krishna, strictly speaking. No? Seriously, gopis, were they getting up in the morning taking their beads? No, they were getting up in the morning, churning the butter, taking cows, looking after their babies, taking care of their in-laws. It seems they were pretty much doing ordinary stuff. They had no serious rules and regulations to follow. But they are the highest worshippers of Krishna. Aradhyo Bhagavan Brajesha Tanayas Taddhama Vrindavanam. Pramya Kachid Upasana means the Upasana of the Varavadus, Vadus of Vrindavan, means gopis of Vrindavan, is the highest form of worship. Because 24/7, without deviation, their minds were absorbed in Krishna. They always were thinking of Krishna. Either they are talking of his activities, they were thinking of Krishna, they were doing whole day. So in that sense, if one is on that platform of prema, then one is beyond the rules and regulations. But to come to that state, it's not easy, and then you need... Next verse. Text 9. Ata chittam samadhatum na shaknoshi mai sthiram abhyasa yogena tato mamichaptum dhananjaya. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. So here, in the first verse, in the previous verse, Krishna is talking about spontaneous devotional service, complete absorption in a natural way. In this case, it is sadhana bhakti. Means that you follow the rules and regulations. Because we read in the Nectar of Devotion that how the sadhana stage can lead to bhava. The perfection of sadhana can lead to the stage of bhava. So, and Srila Prabhupada also writes here in the purport, the first purport, he clarifies a little bit more. If you read the purport to the text 9. Hare Krishna, thank you for coming. No, you didn't. We are most happy to have you. Please take some prasadam. Mother Kameshwari will give you some prasadam so you can take it. Purport, first paragraph, text 9. In this verse, two different processes of bhakti yoga are indicated. The first applies to those who has actually developed attachment for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by transcendental love. And the other is for one who has not developed an attachment for the Supreme Person by transcendental love. For this second class, there are different prescribed rules and regulations one can follow to be ultimately elevated to the stage of attachment to Krishna. So, the spontaneous attraction is what Krishna is looking, but in case you can't have it, then at least follow the rules and regulations. In that way, it slowly comes about. And these two verses, actually, Srila Rupa Goswami gives the first 19 chapters of Nectar of Devotion. Like what exactly means rules and regulations, what are the 64 items of devotional service, what are 5 most important, what is sadhana, what is Vaidhi sadhana, what is Raganuga sadhana, then what is Raganuga, Ragatmika, Bhava, Prema, everything is like a whole list. So every steps are there in there. So, and then what next in case I can't follow the rules and regulations? Text 10. Yes, Rajiv.
So, in 9th chapter, like 34, Man Manabha Bhakto, and this one 8th is exactly same to me, right? Is it any difference, or why it is repeated? I mean, is there any difference? That's what I'm trying to. So it looks to me exactly like, yeah. So just any
yeah, they're more or less the same. The Bhagavad Gita, there are confidential instructions, more confidential instructions, and most confidential instructions. So the 9th, 34, and 2-3 verses form the most confidential instructions. But Krishna, he says that if you cannot do that, he gives this order that Man Mana Bhavad Bhakta, become my devotee, always think of me. But what if you cannot? So if I cannot, then forget it. This Krishna is saying too high. So he's being very merciful. In that sense, Bhakti Yoga is very flexible. If you cannot do this, then do this. Then do this, do this. Because someone might say, if you see the 9th chapter at the end verse, Krishna says, always think of me. In the 10th chapter, Arjuna asks, how should I think of you? For the conditioned soul, Krishna doesn't say, think of me as my form of Shyam Sundar and meditate on my Ras Leela. No, you can't. Because you are a conditioned soul. If you see some ocean, think of me. Oh, okay, this is the opulence of Krishna. See a shark. The 10th chapter, he gives his vibhuti, or he gives his opulences. So at least you are in the conditioned state. If you see that, then think of me. Because in Golok Vrindavan, you don't see much of sharks. You see Krishna in his two-horn form. And everybody is meditating. And in the 11th chapter, he gives the universal form. Okay, that's something to think about. And in the 12th, he gives, okay, now this is the standard I have set. What if you cannot do this, then do this. So he gives the gradation. Other questions? Text 10. Abhyasepi asamartosi mat karma paramo bhava madartam apikarmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfectional stage, to the perfect stage. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that, we have amongst the congregation also, we see many devotees who come out of sentiment for Krishna, who are not really following the regulative principles, but who come just out of sentiment. They worship, they help, they give some money, or they help clean the temple, they serve prasadam, they do so many things. They are not following rules and regulations. Do you know of devotees like that? You don't have to say the name, but just visualize. Not serious, they come out of sentiment. Krishna says, at least do that for me. Here Srila Prabhupada specifically writes that for establishing temples, we need land, we need manpower, we need so many things. But those who help us with that, then this is what Krishna is saying, do it for Krishna. Yeah, Bhagwan hai, let's do something for him. This is, but I don't want to follow the rules. No Ekadashi? What are you talking? I don't know what Ekadashi. No rules, no regulations. Just I want to help. If Krishna says, at least if you do that, then this is the first step. It's nice. So in that sense, one can be encouraged also. If everybody can't be expected to kind of come immediately to the standards. Krishna himself is giving the flexibility. Who are we to judge? People, when they come with different backgrounds, they come with different inclinations. They may come with their own ideas of what to follow, not to follow, what rules to. I don't care about rules. I don't care about Guru. I just come. Okay, just please come. Welcome. Krishna is saying, okay, do something. Eventually so many people, okay, at least, some rules, regulations. So even when we are doing preaching work, it's fine. Just come to the temple, take prasadam. Do nothing else. And one shouldn't be, in the initial stages of devotion, one becomes very enthusiastic to push others also to follow. I am following, others should also follow. Come on, why are you not? He said in Rupa Goswami, he says in Nectar of Devotion, you should chant in front of the deities. You are not chanting. You are not dancing. I don't care about rules. What books? No books. So that also, the preaching also is, based on the person's level, you can preach accordingly. And this stage also, Srila Prabhupada, Krishna writes that if you are good at something, then do it for me. I'm really good at, very artistic at making deity dresses, or very artistic. Then make dresses for me. Then engage them in making deity worship. I'm very good at painting. Paint for Krishna. At this point of time, it is not so much as the rules or even love for Krishna. It is just want to do it. I have this talent, I'll just do it. And especially we are grateful at ISV that we have such a temple president in place that who encourages, as he likes to say, encourage the heck out of everybody. So Vaisheshika Prabhu, whatever talent he sees in others, he encourages to use them in service of Krishna. Because he's a very mature personality who knows how to fan the spark. And that's what it is here. Krishna is really fanning the spark. He says, you can't do this, do this. You can't do this, do this. Even to the point that Krishna says, even if you can't work for me, which it's a beautiful point here. Because sometimes we think, oh man, I'm working so much for Krishna. It's just Krishna says, you don't have to work so much for me. If you can't do this, then do this. I'm telling it for your benefit. It's not I'm going to get a lot of benefit if you do for me. Which is the next verse. Text 11. Athaitad api ashaktosi kartum madhyogam ashritaha sarva karma phalatyagam tata kuru yatatmavan. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all the results of your work and try to be self-situated. Till this point, Krishna has said in these 3 verses, me. But he says, you don't even want to relate with me in any form, shape or fashion. Then at least give up the fruits of your work. Because eventually, when you talk of giving up of fruits of work, then you have to give the fruits of work to somebody, somewhere. At least Krishna says do that and be self-situated. And if we see the purport, here please, because when in the initial stages, we people get so self-righteous about devotional service and start condemning others, that should be definitely avoided. Because just because we found faith and others didn't find faith, means others are lower. Because Krishna here says this. Let's read the purport. Srila Prabhupada writes. It's a beautiful purport we should read. Purport to text 11. it may be that one is unable even to sympathize with activities of Krishna consciousness because of social, familial, or religious considerations, or because of some other impediments. If one attaches himself directly to the activities of Krishna consciousness, there may be objections from family members or so many other difficulties. For one who has such a problem, it is advised that he sacrifice the accumulated result of his activities to some good cause. Such procedures are described in the Vedic rules. There are many descriptions of sacrifices and special functions for the full moon day, and there is special work in which the result of one's previous action may be applied. Thus one may gradually become elevated to the state of knowledge. It is also found that when one who is not even interested in the activities of Krishna consciousness gives charity to some hospital or some other social institution, he gives up the hard-earned results of his activities. That is also recommended here, because by the practice of giving up the fruits of one's activities, one is sure to purify his mind gradually, and in that purified stage of mind, one becomes able to understand Krishna consciousness. Just see. Okay, let's continue. Of course, Krishna consciousness is not dependent on any other experience, because Krishna consciousness itself can purify the mind. But if there are impediments to accepting Krishna consciousness, one may try to give up the results of his action. This is the next thing, very, very important. Please focus. In that respect, social service, community service, national service, sacrifice for one's country may be accepted, so that someday one may come to the stage of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 1846, we find it is stated, Yatha pravritthir bhutanam. If one decides to sacrifice for the supreme cause, even if he does not know that the supreme cause is Krishna, he will come gradually to understand that Krishna is supreme cause by the sacrificial method. Does that answer your question? So basically, it is to whom we are talking to and what is their level of faith. Based on that, you encourage. Prabhupada says it's okay. If you're not, then actually, we had Malini's sisters visit during the Christmas time, and she somehow induced them to give in charity to Bhagavad Gita. They may not be devotees or accept anything; they have nothing to do with Krishna. But because of some pious sukriti, eventually they come to that stage. In that sense, we may also do similarly. Like, our friends and relatives may be completely not devotees and they won't want to do anything with Krishna. But if you can encourage them to give somehow or other, then eventually they will come.
Prabhuji, there is a mention of national service. Yeah. So let's say a soldier, who is fighting and he dies because he took an order from his master or whatever he is working for. So he dies in that battle. So means I don't understand how he will forward in this process.
Because his attitude will soften a little bit. For example, right now he died in the battlefield, but at least he had that sense of sacrifice. That I want to sacrifice for something. And eventually that sacrifice one day will come for devotees and devotional service cause. One day. That soldier who died, he's going to have a good material future because he died for the country. Krishna gives him a very good material future. And in that material future, with that tendency to sacrifice, Srila Prabhupada writes, it is that tendency to sacrifice that can find the right cause sometime. For example, there is this Agyat Sukriti, means that somehow unknowingly I served Krishna or his devotees, which means that I had that tendency to serve. And by good chance, by good fortune, I served a devotee, I started my process. Makes sense? For example, a person is very charitable. He's known to be charitable. He performs so many charitable activities. Mataji, can you close the door, please? Oh, okay. Because thank you. Sorry. Does that answer makes a little bit of sense?
Yeah, to some extent, yeah. Because if you look at the militants, yeah, that today they are becoming a bomb and dying themselves. Is that also will consider as sacrifice?
No, they are not, because they are sacrificing other people. In that sense, yeah, it is a
they
sacrifice.
also took order from somebody, and they think they are serving their country, and that's why they're becoming a bomb. And
but in that process, they are not sacrificing themselves. They are just sacrificing others and causing harm to others. And strictly speaking, even those who are doing it, many of that religion says that our religion doesn't prescribe this. It's a perverted form of religion, and it can happen, not just with one particular religion. Even in Hinduism, the animal sacrifice, it was abused. People were rampantly killing animals in the name of Vedic sacrifices. And Buddha came and he stopped. So the nature of world is such that there can be a perverted, twisted meanings out of good causes, and they don't certainly count towards those. This is more of like to do good. So Srila Prabhupada writes, at least have that tendency to sacrifice your fruits, then one day you might. Even Malini can, or Kameshwari or Hitan, anybody who's going on book distribution can tell that some people are very receptive and they are more of a charitable nature. So when they give for Krishna's cause, they perform some Ajnat Skruti, and that spiritual life has started. That it was their tendency to kind of be good, nice, some charity. That sense was there, and now it found the right cause, so that can help. But please understand that Krishna consciousness is not, as Srila Prabhupada writes, not dependent on any material cause. Neither can performing heaps of charities nor tapasya, reading loads of books will actually get you Krishna. Because so there are two things. Here Krishna gives the direct answer first. He doesn't build up saying that do the charity first. No, he says this is what it is. Always absorbed in me. But if you can't, then at least there are gradations. So there is a difference. Make sense? Tarunji, it's clear? Or no, if you have more, we'll discuss it threadbare.
I got the first example.
Prabhuji.
Yes, Raji.
So the text 10, right? So is talking about if you cannot practice the bhakti yoga, right? Then just try to work for me, right? That's what it means here, a karma, right? Is it third chapter we can correlate with this, and when we are going next verses, which is karma, but it is good karma, something like that? That's what it means. I mean, I'm just trying to understand.
So this 10th verse is karma mishra bhakti. Bhakti, not pure bhakti, but mixed with a little bit of karma.
So are we going to call this a karma or not? I mean, because it is like same thing. What working for me, right?
So okay, here is another question. When you work for Krishna, is it karma or bhakti?
I think karma we called as bhakti.
because in the third chapter, Krishna says yajñartha karmanonyatra lokoyam karma. You have to perform worship for Krishna. So in the third chapter itself, you said work for Krishna.
And the
Same thing is mentioned here. So it is karma mishra bhakti, meaning to say, please understand that yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, it is not like in silo. Means karma means fixed, that's it. When you perform, when Srila Prabhupada writes, the definition is, you perform karma yoga, but the bhakti is very little and karma is predominant, then it becomes karma yoga. So karma yoga doesn't mean there is no bhakti yoga in it. So in bhakti yoga, it's only pure bhakti alone that stands, with no need or desire or dependence on karma or jnana. So in the third verse, yes, it is karma yoga, but mixed with bhakti. There is a predominant, there is both there.
But here they are talking about the same thing, more bhakti, less karma, something like that, or bhakti pure, no?
Depends. No, depends. For example, I'll tell you, a person who comes to the temple, he comes and he comes with his family to help out serve prasadam or clean. But when you go, he goes to office, he does his stuff, and he is not too much into bhakti. Mainly he is like a karma. So our other person who's done a lot of bhakti, but who's away from devotional service, and he comes and does stuff. Is it karma or bhakti? Because there is heavy bhakti in the background. You get the point? It's not like black and white on this verse. It can be karma, it can be bhakti, or it's a mixture of both.
And the 11th one is, if I correlate, is same like karma, but it's a good karma. That's what it means here.
Mainly nishkam karma. No, it's not good karma. Nishkam karma, not karma kanda.
So there was a niskam and sakam, but it's talking about the niskam.
Nishkam karma.
Because I'm trying to correlate that part.
Right. Give up the fruits of your action. What's it? Or chapter 2. Karmanyevadikaraste ma phalesh karam. Then don't give up all the fruits. Nishkam karma. It can be a combination.
Prabhu, so this chapter is basically Bhakti Yoga. So whatever Krishna is saying here, everything is related to Bhakti. So this 11th one, when he's telling about giving up the results of your work, he's not mentioning it to me.
Right.
He's not mentioning.
Correct.
So like even like atheists or many people, even they like give in charity for community service and all. So that is also indirectly maybe one day will lead them to Bhakti. Is that?
I have a small story to tell here. Few years ago, I was fortunate enough to distribute books in Walmart. So a man comes by, and I said, this is book Bhagavad Gita, and it's good book. It's usual lines, how it relieves stress, anxiety. He looks at the book and he says, I'm an atheist. Sorry, I don't take this book. I said to him, this book tells you how there is no God for those who don't believe in Him. Really? I said, yeah. And he took the book. The words I used were that those who don't believe in Him. I didn't say this book tells you that there is no God. I said those who don't believe. Yeah. So point I'm trying to make is that you don't know how it turned out. So he's an atheist. He took Bhagavad Gita. He touched the Bhagavad Gita. He gave some money for it. We don't know the results. In what way it's going to turn. Please use the mic. And there are if you start the stories, which I apologize, which Malini and Kameshwari and Hiten and Swati Mataji, now we can go on till till Gaur Purnima.
Next
Gaur
semester.
Purnima, we don't have to get up from this place.
This is the one that Vaisheshika Prabhu says about book distribution at the Chicago airport. And so there was this security officer who was very much against the Hare Krishnas, and he always used to say that you are beggars and here you are, you take this penny. And he used to throw pennies, and he kept on throwing them on, and the Hare Krishna devotee was very humble. He used to just pick up the pennies and keep them in the pocket. And after some time, this security officer became a big devotee, and he came and hugged him and said, I'm totally with you. So
Wonderful.
that was
giving
up the results of his hard work.
Yeah. Now that I think we should have one day, instead of dad, we should have all the book distributors telling about their stories, different unique stories. That will be interesting.
Be dad, book distribution appreciation.
Yeah. Be dad. Be dad, be mom, whatever. So, yeah, it'll be nice. Just share the stories. Any other questions? So we'll move forward. This is 3:35 now. And Vaisheshika Prabhu is going to give the class. So I just want to. Text 12. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasaj jnanad jnanam vishishyate jnanat karma phalat tyagat chantir anantaram. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge is, however, meditation. Better than meditation is renunciation of fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. So Srila Prabhupada, this is a little tricky verse to understand because it seems to go in the negative direction. In the second chapter, Krishna talked of Nishkam Karma Yoga. In the third, Karma Yoga, then Jnana, then Dhyana. This seems to be a little counter. He says, if not, try to get Jnana, then go to meditation, then give up the fruits. But this is the hierarchy he gives. Right? It's a little confusing. What is this? How does it work? The point here is, the answer to that lies in, let's quickly read not the purport, but the portion of purport to the 20th verse. So, this is the last paragraph of the 20th verse, and it's about 7 or 8 lines from the bottom. In the impersonal conception, did everybody get that? Yes. So, it's last paragraph of the 20th verse, and then from the bottom, about 8 or 9 lines up. In the impersonal conception? Good. In the impersonal conception of absolute truth, one works without fruitive results, meditates and cultivates knowledge to understand spirit and matter. So, when Krishna talks here, he says, try to get this knowledge of matter and spirit. Try to understand what's matter, what is spirit. And Ishopanishad also says the same thing. Cultivate both. So, at least that's the starting point. Jnana, knowledge. And then from knowledge comes meditation, which means the mind control and other things. From there, then you can talk of giving up the fruits of your work. But at least come to the point of giving up the fruits of your work, because unless you come to that point, you won't have peace of mind. So, that's the gradation. So, if we do a summary study, then it is, first thing is, Krishna says, at least knowledge of matter and spirit. Try to get that. And then from there, meditation. Just focus your mind. From there, work without fruitive results. From there, work for me. Clean the buildings, donate money, give some land, grow gardens for me. Some people, you see, the other thing. We talk of Nishkam Karma Yoga, Raji, your question. There are so many Indian store owners who, when it comes to Janmashtami or other times, they say, okay, take it, This is, or Trader Joe's, even though it's like they are trying to give us expired products. But nevertheless, they are doing something for Krishna. They may eat meat, they will do so many things, but they have the tendency, okay, here, take this. So the next step is work for Krishna. Either donate for Krishna or grow gardens, be a shop owner who gives some money to Krishna. And then above that is follow the rules and regulations of Bhakti Yoga. And above that is spontaneously be attracted to Krishna and completely be absorbed in Krishna. That's the gradation. Bhakti Yoga is flexible, isn't it? No fixed rules. It's like, because compare this to 6th study. If you really want to know the beauty is 6th chapter, Krishna is so strict. If you want to get perfection, find a place neither too high nor too low, and sit in this position, stare at the tip of your nose, completely be free from attachment, celibate. It's so strict. If you don't do those, then pretty much whatever you are doing is bogus, waste of time. You can't do it either. But Bhakti Yoga, he says, at least do this, at least do this, at least do that. So when we preach also, it can these verses can be the basis of our preaching. Based on to whom you are preaching, then encourage them in that way. Any questions, any comments? The other few verses, the last 6 or 7 verses will go rather quickly, not because of the lack of time, because they are pretty clear on what Krishna wants. Wherever there are important points, we'll highlight. Text 13. Text 13-14. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara samadukha sukhakshamihi santushta satatam yogi yatatma dhrida nishchayaha Mayarpita mano buddhir yo mad bhakta same priyaha. One who is not envious but a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. I have to confess that I have none of those qualities, and then I am trying to work on it. Purport. This person, so here in the purport, one way to look at it is that, let's read till the first few lines of the purport. Coming again to the point of pure devotional service, the Lord is describing the transcendental qualifications of a pure devotee in these two verses. A pure devotee is never disturbed under any circumstances, nor is he envious of anyone, nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. He thinks, this person is acting as my enemy due to my own past misdeeds, so it's better to suffer than to protest. As I said before, I have none of those qualities, and I am working on it. It's a long way off. So, and this famous quote, Srimad Bhagavatam, Tattenu Kampam Susumikshmanu. So, shall we go? Will we go on? Okay. Text 15. Yasman no dvijate loko, loka no dvijate chayaha, harshamarsha bhayodvegair, mukto ya sa chame priyaha. He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety is very dear to me. Purport. There is an important point here. Let's discuss that. A few of the devotees' qualifications are further being described. No one is put into difficulty, anxiety, fearfulness, or dissatisfaction by such a devotee. Since a devotee is kind to everyone, he does not act in such a way as to put others into anxiety. At the same time, if others try to put a devotee into anxiety, he is not disturbed. Please, the next line is so important. It is by the grace of the Lord that he is so practiced that he is not disturbed by any outward disturbances. So, while we try internally to cultivate those, the grace of the Lord is also important to have those particular qualities in us. One cannot be frustrated saying that I am trying to cultivate, but it's not happening. Because grace of Krishna is also needed according to Srila Prabhupada's purport. Text 16. Anapeksha suchir daksha udasino gatavyata sarvaramba parityagi yomad bhakta same priyaha. My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result is very dear to me. Text 17. Yona harshyati na dveshti, na sochati na kankshati, shubha ashubha parityagi, bhaktiman ya same priyaha. One who neither renounces nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, such a devotee is very dear to me. So, Srila Prabhupada, if you see in the purports, he is talking of the qualities of the pure devotees here. And there are few repetitions also for those who are interested. You can look up the repetitions, and we'll Srila Prabhupada also explains those why there are repetitions. Text 18 and 19. Sama shatraucha mitrecha tata mana pamanayo sitoshna sukadukeshu samasanga vivarjita tulya ninda stutir mauni santushto yena kenachit Aniketa sthiramatir bhaktiman me priyo naraha. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from the contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. So Srila Prabhupada in this short purport, he talks about different aspects of it. Actually, quickly let's read the purport anyways. Purport. A devotee is always free from all bad association. Sometimes one is praised and sometimes one is defamed. That is the nature of human society. But a devotee is always transcendental to artificial fame and infamy, distress or happiness. He is very patient. He does not speak of anything but topics about Krishna. Therefore, he is called silent. Silent does not mean that one should not speak. Silent means one should not speak nonsense. Where do we hear this? Which? Nectar of instruction. Wonderful. Which verse? Vacho Vega. Wonderful. Yeah, thank you. One should only speak of essentials, and the most essential speech for the devotee is to speak for the sake of the Supreme Lord. A devotee is happy in all conditions. Sometimes he may get very palatable foodstuffs, sometimes not, but he is satisfied. Nor does he care for any residential facilities. He may sometimes live underneath a tree, and sometimes he may live in a very palatial building, but he is attracted to neither. He is called fixed because he is fixed in his determination and knowledge. We may find, this is the important point, we may find some repetition in the descriptions of the qualifications of a devotee, but this is just to emphasize the fact that a devotee must acquire all these qualifications. So Srila Prabhupada writes this. Let's go. Without good qualifications, one cannot be a pure devotee. Harav abhaktasya kuto mahad guna. Which verse is this? Can anybody? You can look up in the Shloka book, 5, 18, 12. 5th canto, you share the Shloka book, 5th canto, 18th chapter, 12th verse. Yeah. Actually, one of the devotees, Malini, you can read it loud so that others can follow.
It's page 225 in Shloka book. You want to read the Sanskrit?
Yeah, we'll all follow. You read the line by line so that we follow.
Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana.
Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana.
Sarvair gunaistatra samasate sura.
Sarvair gunaistatra samasate sura.
Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna.
Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna.
Manoratena sati Dhavato bahihi.
Manoratena sati dhavato bahi. Translation, please.
All the demigods and their exalted qualities, such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation, become first manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. Even if he is adept at the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives, he must be driven by his own mental speculations and must engage in the service of Lord's external energy. How can there be any good qualities in such a man?
Thank you. So let's continue with the purport because there's the last important point. Harav abhaktasya kuto mahadguna. One who is not a devotee has no good qualification. One who wants to be recognized as a devotee should develop good qualifications. This is the last sentence that's very important. Of course, he does not extraneously endeavor to acquire these qualifications, but engagement in Krishna consciousness and devotional service automatically helps him develop them. So there is, those who want to endeavor, they can, but if one engages in bhakti, then automatically these qualities come about. A common example is many devotees I talk to, they said, when I come fresh into Krishna consciousness, I automatically like to listen to bhajans rather than, other songs or something like mundane songs. So automatically it will come. There's no extraneous effort. Any questions, comments so far, or should we I'll continue complete the 20th and then we can take questions. Text 20. Ye tu dharmamritam idam yatoktam paryupasate shraddha dana matparama bhaktas tetiva me priyaha. those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. So, let's see. Let's read the purport. We have some time. In this chapter, from verse 2 through the end, from Maya Veshya Mano Yemam, fixing the mind on me, through Yetu Dharmamritam Idam, this religion of eternal engagement, the Supreme Lord has explained the processes of transcendental service for approaching Him. Such processes are very dear to the Lord, and He accepts a person engaged in them. The question of who is better, one who is engaged in the path of impersonal Brahman, or who is engaged in the personal service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was raised by Arjuna. And the Lord replied to him so explicitly that there is no doubt that the devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the best of all processes of spiritual realization. In other words, in this chapter, it is decided that through good association one develops attachment for pure devotional service and thereby accepts a bona fide spiritual master, and from him begins to hear and chant and observe the regulative principles of devotional service with faith, attachment, and devotion, and thus becomes engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. The path is recommended in this chapter. Therefore, there is no doubt that the devotional service is the only absolute path for self-realization, for the attainment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal conception of the absolute truth, as described in this chapter, is recommended only up to the time one surrenders himself for self-realization. So, the point is, should we condemn those who are, impersonalists? It's a fair question, because on one hand we are against the impersonal conception, but from their perspective, maybe what they are following is good, because that's their faith. So it's better that we neither encourage nor kind of criticize. It's their faith, so we don't do much about it, because at least they are trying to advance from the realm of material world or the clutches through their process, which may not be perfect, but let them. We neither criticize nor we encourage. But if they try to shake our faith, then something needs to be done, because we are firmly convinced that just worshipping Krishna is the best thing to do. In other words, let me repeat that, please. It's very important. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Absolute Truth, as described in this chapter, is recommended only up to the time one surrenders himself for self-realization. In other words, as long as one does not have the chance to associate with a pure devotee, the impersonal conception may be beneficial. In the impersonal conception of the Absolute Truth, one works without fruitive result, meditates and cultivates knowledge to understand spirit and matter. This is necessary as long as one is not in the association of pure devotee. So Srila Prabhupada repeats twice. And he's very emphatic about it. Fortunately, if one develops directly a desire to engage in Krishna consciousness in pure devotional service, he does not need to undergo step-by-step improvements in spiritual realization. Devotional service, as described in the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, is more congenial. One need not bother about the materials to keep the body and soul together, because by grace of the Lord, everything is carried out automatically. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose to the 12th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of devotional service. Questions, comments? Yes, Mukharavinda Prabhu.
So the impersonal thing that they are talking here is Brahmavadi, not Mayavadi, right? The last statement that you make, that okay, even if they are impersonalist, then also we should not criticize and not. So that is, you are making for Brahmavadis, not for Mayavadis, or is it for both?
Essentially for Brahmavadis. I mean, even for Mayavadis, they have a perverted sense of who they are. They think they are God, but at least they are trying to get out of the clutches of material existence by not engaging in sense gratification. So while it is completely pernicious on one level, Mayavad philosophy, because Mahaprabhu himself said, Mayavada bhashya sunile hoilo sarvanash. So in that sense, it's very pernicious, and one takes great pain not to associate with Mayavadis. But this mainly is in reference to Brahmavadis. Yes.
I don't know the difference between both.
Okay. The Brahmavadis are the class of people or spiritualists who believe the ultimate truth is Brahman. And they are subordinate to it. Though they merge into it, but they never get this feeling that I am God. Or there is a predefined notion. I am God. I'll start from that, then we'll say God is undefined, or Brahman, then I'll merge with him. So that sort of notion is Mayavadi. Whereas Brahmavadi, they have the subordinacy to Brahman. In the sense, their subordinacy may not be in terms of exchange of service, but still they realize Brahman is great, I am small. And I'll merge into Brahman. That's Brahmavadi. Other questions? Does that answer your question? So yeah, Mayavadi, I mean, the point is that Mahaprabhu, he didn't condemn Mayavadis when he went to Banaras. If you see the whole pastime, he went there and he showed humility. He didn't go and start, he's the supreme absolute truth. All he could have done is kind of go and start giving a talk and people would be captured. But he went there, and as we know, as soon as he entered into this assembly, everybody was there, Mayavad, and they were criticizing him. They said, this Chaitanya is, though he took sannyas diksha from Shankar Sampradaya, he's not one amongst us. He's a sentimentalist. He goes around chanting and dancing with these women and children and people of lower caste. We are Mayavadis, we read Vedanta. This fellow doesn't even read Vedanta. That was their prejudice towards Mahaprabhu. And but when Mahaprabhu went there, he actually washed his feet, and he sat at the same place where he washed his feet. And then one of the leaders, who was Prakashananda Saraswati, he grabbed, he said, Your Holiness, why are you sitting here in a dirty place? Come, sit here. And unfortunately, or fortunately for him, that was Ajna Sukriti, served Mahaprabhu. So in that sense, he exhibited his Brahman effulgence and they got converted. So point is, even he didn't condemn them, though he instructed his followers that don't listen to Mayavadis. He was very strict about it. There's no doubt about it. So association is one thing, condemning or criticizing is another thing, and being neutral or not kind of even having some sort of connection is another thing. Because as devotees, we do not have any connection, or we shouldn't maintain any connection with Mayavadis. But please understand that everybody is under the clutches of Supreme Personality of Godhead. And to the extent you can convert, or you can tell, but otherwise, just maintain your distance. So in that sense, the criticism doesn't even come about. Makes sense?
In the Srila Prabhupada Pranati Mantra, we see that Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschata Desha Tarine, and even in his books, like he has so much left right for the Mayavad, and that was his main, if you see in the books, for every purport Mayavad. And yes, so in that context, I'm asking like whether we should follow or
be neutral, because we are not on that level we are not like on the level of Srila Prabhupada, so it's he did what he was on his level. We will do what we are on our level to avoid Mayavadis. Just no interaction, no reading of their books, no intimate talks with them on spiritual realization. You are there, I am here. Hare Krishna. Seriously, because unless one is so strong to convert, you cannot. In fact, that's why Mahaprabhu was so strict. Because when Murari Gupta, he was in the Mahaprakash Leela, Murari Gupta, he refused to give. Murari Gupta, who was it? I forget the devotee. Was it Murari Gupta? I think so. I don't remember. One of the devotees, he condemned because he said that you are here when you associate with Vaishnavas, you say you are fine, you are okay, this is great, Bhakti is great. And when you go to Mayavadis, you associate with them, you say, okay, Mayavadi is great. So he said he condemned that attitude. So, so you should, I hope you get the picture. But they in their perverted way are trying to realize God, at least not being in the material world. So,
are they more worse than atheists, or the Mayavadis are worse than atheists, or they are better than atheists?
Well, it is equally actually saved by the bell. Rung by Vaisheshika Prabhu. No, who is more worst, atheist or the Mayavadi?
I just heard Prabhu at a lecture this morning saying that the atheists are the Mayavadis.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on a spot. So depends. I mean, like for one who's advanced in spiritual life and who's having a taste for Krishna, they'll say, let me be an atheist and a demon rather than being a Mayavadi. Because there are our acharyas have said that, because if the mellow of devotional service to Krishna is so beautiful, so ecstatic and so pleasing to the heart, they said, let me be a demon and an atheist and be smashed by Krishna rather than become a Mayavadi. So, based on one's level, one can compare. In both the sense, an atheist and a Mayavadi is under the spell of Krishna, on the material energy of Krishna. But, so there is no like a direct answer. And why do we even want to compare? Because we are, ideally speaking, that our devotional service is meant to help both. Atheists should take book, and Mayavadi also should take book and realize Krishna. Doesn't matter. Prabhuji, anything you had to add to that? Or?
It's an interesting question. Who's more
Worst.
learned? More
Who's
versed?
more worst? Yeah.
Atheists? What would they be versed in? Yeah, but what would an atheist be versed in?
Mukharavindra Prabhu.
What question I could not?
The question is like, you say, is atheist worse or a Mayavadi? In what way they are worst?
Or versed?
Worst.
Versed. V-E-R-S-E.
W-R-S-T.
Oh, worst. Who's worst?
It depends.
It really, I think it depends on, because we've seen that some people, depending on some they have some sukriti hiding in their heart. And when they come in contact with devotees, some people close down completely, and obviously they're envious. They go the other way. They don't. And other people who are atheists or Mayavadis, they change their mind.
Mm.
So you have to see what happens when they come in contact.
Right.
Right?
Yes, Prabhuji. It depends. There's no...
Case by case basis.
Perfect. Thank you, Prabhuji. So any other questions on the 12th chapter? Please, now that we will, this time it has been decided there will be a midterm exam, and Hari Sankirtan Prabhu said we'll make it very interesting, that there will be only 2-week notice. So I hope the devotees are reading. You asked for it, please. The point is that now we completed the 12th chapter. There is 13th and 14th, and then after that, anytime there will be a midterm exam. And just to help you, one of the questions might come for the midterm exam is the gradations which we talked in the 12th chapter. like Krishna says, fix your mind on me. So as we go through, let me, encapsulate that. So the first thing is, what he says is knowledge. Try to cultivate the knowledge of spirit and matter. From there, do meditation. From there, try to give up the fruits of the action. Then Krishna talks about personal relations. Then work for me. At least Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that for constructing a temple, we need land, we need so many manpower and resources. And somebody who's not even following the rules and regulations, but who is doing that, that's better. And then the next level is try to follow the rules and regulations and try to obtain me. And then the highest is spontaneously be absorbed without deviation with your mind and intelligence in me. So that's the gradation which Krishna talks. So we were talking, Vaishish Prabhuji, about how Bhakti Yoga is so flexible that Krishna is giving, and then how during preaching, if Krishna doesn't judge by what level people are at, who are we to judge when we are preaching? Based on their level, we just encourage them to help them in Krishna consciousness. And your motto, fan the spark, came up a lot. But how Krishna is not judging about people, who are we to judge, to see where on one level they are. Other questions or comments? So midterm, the dates and all that, they will be given. This time, let's do away with homework. Midterm itself is a good homework. And we'll have certain marks, 50% for midterms and 50% for final. So you don't have to, the beauty is that you don't have to worry about all the 9 chapters. And trust me, 18th chapter is a long chapter. So you'll be done with 5 chapters, and then another 5 chapters later. More work for us, but that's okay. Correct wise and keep track of papers. What's the biggest, probably just 2 more minutes? Is that okay? Please. What's the biggest anxiety for me for the exam? Anybody guess? Location, yeah, that's one anxiety.
How to pass the student.
How to pass the student, that's another anxiety. Yeah. But mostly it's the work of the student rather than me. So there's anxiety, but there. Preparing the question paper. Sure, that's definitely one source of anxiety. But still, more. Correcting papers, yeah, but it's also an anxiety. But there is one thing which nobody can think about, is to actually keep the papers intact once you have given me. Because I need to take those papers at places where I'm correcting, and I always have to be conscious that some people who have written, especially the hard copies, that they are not lost. Imagine if I lose those papers and I say to you that, you have to take the exam again. And they will say, get out of here. We are not even giving you exam. You pass us. Because, it's your responsibility. You got to pass us. So that's my greatest source of anxiety. Papers, where are they all times? So. Other questions, other comments? I am... Fees, yes. Our administrative director, Shraddha Mataji. Okay. Yeah, so the fees is due on June 9th. So please give the fees. Or don't give, because if you don't give, instead of paying $62.50, you pay $100. Good for the temple, so please don't give the fees. Give after June 9th, $100. I'm very, very grateful to all of you for coming. And now that Vaisheshik Prabhu is here, I'm grateful to him for starting the Bhakti Shastri course, so that everybody is learning, reading, and understanding Srila Prabhupada's books. I missed this service when I was in Mayapur. But I'm very, very glad to be back. And now, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
She wants two, right? Because now they think I'm worried because we gave her a word that I am
learned that no, I'm the right thing. No, she does. Yeah, one she did for herself, and the second one she was for the
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshacharine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu